Meeting started. So we have all board members present, and we'll start right off. A communication, Matt.
Mary, you want to go first?
Sure.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Start with kudos to staff. They worked really hard to build and maintain those relationships this year with all the things that were out of control. You heard our third graders made lemonade out of lemons and had a really fun lemonade stand. They all went to visit their pen pals down at the manor, and that proved to be an unpredictable positive for both the kids, the families, the staff. The relationships that were made this year were just, it's difficult to explain without experiencing what that was like. Lots of warmth, love, trust, and learning. There's a lot of things to be proud of in our school district. Our families continually supported us. I felt like there were really good lines of open communication with both them and with the board. So thanks to all of you for trusting the process and trusting that what we were doing was with the best intentions. And even though that we had no idea what we were doing, honestly, sometimes we just did it because we knew that it was right for kids. So that's that. Wrapping up, we started targeted services this morning. We have just over 100 kids in grades K through 5. 57 of them are taking advantage of the transportation this summer. So that's exciting. We're working out of a kitchen that doesn't have a cafeteria at the elementary because the cafeteria is being painted. So that's an exciting time to start this process and have bag lunches and bag breakfasts and have everything in the community. And it's fun to have people in the building. You forget what it's like to have non-staff, non-kids in the building and see those friendly faces because there were basketball camps going on this morning. So I was seeing parents and their little children, and it was just like, this is how it should be. This is why we're here. So just a personal woohoo. We made it. 7 Mindsets has been amazing this year. Wonderful to have that shared communication, that shared language with families and with teachers and with kids across the grade levels. We're going to implement family groups in the upcoming school year. Last year, I shared a little bit about that with you, where we have 1 student per grade level. So K-5 becomes a family. So we'll have, upwards of 70 families that'll meet once a month, and we'll focus on the 7 Mindset of the month. And we've got all kinds of activities that we planned last year for this year that we finally get to put into play. So look for more to come on that. Schedules for next year are done. Power half hours are done for grade levels. Homeroom rosters are complete. Report cards go home tomorrow. So all of our littles will know where their teachers are next year. Literacy Boot Camp is coming to us here live at Paynesville, August 24th and 25th. We've got Dr. Kim Gibbons from the Carey Institute coming out to speak to staff on August 24th. She's a renowned expert in research-based literacy instruction in the MTSS framework. Super excited. We've opened that up to our cooperative districts as well. I'm just really thrilled. She's amazing. And then the next day, the second day, is our letters training. So letters training teaches the foundations of literacy. So if a child struggles, we go back and back and back to find out what they need, and we'll learn how to do that effectively. That's about it for me. Do you have any questions or concerns, comments?
And I was just thinking, we don't have to worry about the heat because there's no kids in the school, but you got kids.
We got lots of kids. They're cooking a little bit today, but that's okay. They're done by 1, so it's not so bad.
A lot of fans.
Yeah, right. And we're taking advantage of the tiny spaces that have air conditioning. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Matt? All right. Good evening, everyone. Just a few things to report. Summer rec and enrichment's kicked off. Numbers are pretty good. We're down a little bit from before, but we knew that it takes some people longer to come back. We've already wrapped up some programs like Little League. We've kind of changed that around so they can participate in the travel leagues more so. That wrapped up last week. Excellent parent volunteers again for many of our programs, and that's what our course are based. That's how you can charge $24 for a program that meets for 6-7 weeks. We have great parents that that lead it. So far we have 92 students enrolled for summer. We start next Monday, so we have this week off to transition and to let some teachers get some changes around in rooms and get to that. We have good news. We were approved for summer preschool funding from the state. We got a notice that we could apply for it and we could get $14,000 or $14,500. And then if we could take any more students, that we could request more. And we actually got approved for, I think, like 19.5 or something like that. So our preschool summer program will be 6 weeks, July 19th through August 26th, and it'll be 8 a.m. to 12:30. So we're doing that really targeting, contacting kids that we think that would be really beneficial to be in there. The state says we only need to provide for 4 kids. We're gonna have 20 kids in there. And we're gonna do a kind of a side-by-side with all the kids that are preschool pause. We'll actually get to automatically take advantage of the 6 weeks of the preschool program. So they'll be in there and we get to service them as kind of a benefit of it. And then we're targeting other ones that aren't in pause that we feel that our staff and our team really think would be value being in that. So we're making those calls now.
Is that for 3-year-old, 4-year-old, what age groups is that?
Well, we only take those that completed 4-year-old preschool. So it does qualify for, you could do 3s and 4s
Yep.
with it.
But just because you're gonna.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we've already started ordering supplies and we're splitting it. We have 2 preschool teachers that will be doing, one will do 3 weeks, the other will do 3 weeks. They're gonna do themes and they're excited about it. So it should be a great opportunity. And any money that we do not use this summer, we can carry over and do the program next summer too. So I don't see us utilizing all that money. So that way we could even plan, well in advance, and we could utilize that for next summer too. So kind of a nice thing. The fitness center usage, we're really starting to come back. The new high school area downstairs is fantastic. I think the kids are really liking that, and that is actually helping us then too. So a typical morning now would have been, 40 kids in the fitness center, students. They usually do 2 or 3 hours at 2 or 3 hours at a time, so blocked off. Now they are in the former wrestling room and loving it. They've got the power racks down there, the turf, and they can crank the music, and it's a win-win for our members and for them too. So our live stream, we completed our spring season with graduation last Sunday. The wind was tough to deal with for sound. I mean, when you get it blowing, it was tough if you were live there. The video worked great. We have fiber out there, so we didn't drop video like last year when we were trying to do the live with Wi-Fi. So that went good, but the wind was a challenge. So wasn't really much you can do with that one. It was blowing across there, but I thought it was a great ceremony, and we had a pretty decent amount online watching. So we're excited for fall. We're actually already starting to plan for football and volleyball, and so we're excited for that. I sent out a bulldog bark today, so that'll probably be one of the last ones until later in the summer. Just kind of a wrap up now that school things are done, but continue to send me those community members that you want on that list that have contacted you. So I think that's gone over pretty well. We can highlight some of the things that are happening. And I think that's it. Do you have any questions for me? The only other thing that will come, of course, is just discussion, I suppose, is with the operations of the new PAC. Now's the time because we're going to be staffing that 12 hours a day. There's gonna be weekend staffing, so I'm putting together all of that and budgets, and we have not increased fees in the fitness center for I think 16 years. So I do have some ideas on that. I always want to keep current members held harmless, so I wouldn't plan on raising any rates. But I'm playing around with the idea of eliminating our 1-year contract, just going to no contract. So people could kind of come and go and then just go with that rate. So that's something I'm just kind of exploring. So it wouldn't be an increase. It would be, we're just eliminating the year contract option. So something just to kind of chew on. We've never gone to the board to ask for approval for rates for community ed classes and that, but I'd like to kind of just keep you guys in the loop. We want it maximized and used, but right now we don't, there aren't many costs for staffing, but we want to staff that because we want to keep it really nice and we want to actually, have maximum usage of the facility. So, yeah, we're really excited. We had a construction meeting today and places coming together really well. So, yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Welcome to your last report for us, isn't it?
Yes, you did.
Good evening, everyone. Summer work has begun. The custodians are emptying rooms and starting to scrub floors. As Mary mentioned, they're painting the elementary cafeteria. They left early today, but their excuse was to go to Menards, but I think it was just too dang hot. In the new addition, the clouds are up. They look sharp. Brickwork on the east side of the addition should be completed at the end of this week, or next week, I should say. They will be installing sidewalks tomorrow morning on the new addition. Mirrors in the group fitness center are scheduled to go in Friday. July 6th through the 9th, they plan on paving the parking lots. Which will be a lot of trucks running out, let's put it that way. The lobby floor in the addition is done. Looks a little hairy right now because it's dirt. It's dirty, but it does. I think it'll shine up real nice. They were working on the entryway tile today. I think it's foot by foot tiles. It's going to look sharp, I think. Other than that, it's really with great regret that this will be the last time I have to speak. God.
Feel that.
I did enjoy working. I do enjoy working. It's time to leave and think I'll have a great retire.
Thank you for all your years of service and enjoy retirement.
I think I will.
You can still come to board meetings.
I might do that, but
Let you run a floor scrubber if you ask.
yeah, I bet they would.
And just to piggyback what Donnie said, that parking lot pavement, that is actually gonna be all of the parking lots in the, at this site. So the south lot, the west lot are gonna get milled down, so it will all be
New all together.
new asphalt when it's,
So how do they do that? Do they?
The potholes will be gone?
well, the pot.
Yeah.
So do
You wanna go hit a few,
they-
do it in the next 2 days.
They lay that first layer of asphalt down where they haven't, and then they come through a mill and then they could go over everything all together at the end of the summer, or how do they?
I'm not sure how they're gonna approach it, if they'll have the miller running while they're putting new asphalt in, or,
Yeah.
but, I mean, they were talking today, it didn't sound, they were talking like three days. is what
Right, and it'd be out of here.
And we're gonna put the speed bumps to go back in and everything
They're
then.
gonna be bigger than they are now.
Great.
Oh, no.
We're physically gonna see if we can get a car hung up on one.
Over here, it looks like it's got a few bellies rubbed on it.
Clean that up.
Speed bumps are going in, but they're actually gonna be speed bumps, they're not going to be,
Speed humps.
whatever you
Speed
want.
hills.
They won't be as large as the ones that are in there.
Yeah.
They will still have some
Yeah.
attempt to slow people down.
Yes.
I do wanna thank Donnie, you, obviously you didn't do it, but you got somebody to put a stop sign up down there.
Oh, Matt did.
Okay,
Yep,
assume they'll be putting a more permanent one eventually, but.
right, yeah.
There will be a permanent one going, but the one that's there is working now.
B, operating referendum. Matt, we'll go to you.
All right, well, let's talk operating referendum a little bit. So this is kind of picking up where we left off, the conversation at the work session last month. I did set a kind of a grid at your place that's also available in Drive. But they're realistically, and I think maybe we should start with this because I think this is the summary that people are really, I think these answer the questions people are really asking. So as I sit and look at this, the conversation has really been about either $500 per pupil or $531 per pupil. And then when you combine that, there's actually 4 different combinations that we could do for each of those. And so what I wanted to do is take each of these 4 scenarios for the 2 amounts and run those through to give the board a snapshot that if our staffing stays the same, if our enrollment stays level, this is what our estimated general fund net position would be with each of these different scenarios. So the first 4 are $500 per pupil. The first question you have to ask yourself, and this is the one that Ellers brought up when they were here, is Do you want to revoke the existing authority? Now, remember, Ellers was talking about this. They were talking about ballot language. How do you make this the cleanest ballot? How do you make it the simplest for people to go to the ballot box and just simply understand the question? If you want to revoke the existing authority, our existing authority is roughly $39,000 annually. That's what you would be losing if you revoke that authority. However, you would lose it for 1 year. It wouldn't be beyond that, okay? If you allow the existing authority to just sunset and run out when it runs out at the end of calendar year 2022, you can do that too. You don't have to revoke it. It actually kind of cleans the ballot language up if you choose not to revoke it and just let it go. You could just put a new authority in place as well, okay?
So there are options where you have revoke existing authority, it says yes, that either be sunset or.
Nope, so revoke existing authority and you say yes, that means you would cancel the current authority and replace it with the
If we
$500.
say no, that means we let it run out.
We let it run out. Exactly. For 1 year is what's left on it, exactly. So then the next question you have to do is this conversation about indexing for inflation. MDE is the one that calculates out inflation annually. And it's been averaging right around 2% is where it's at. I do think this next year, it's actually gonna see a dip, a little less than 2%. Although, as you stretch things out, depending on what happens, it could obviously go higher than 2%. And so that's the next question. Do you want to index it for inflation? Or do you want it to just simply stay at that $500 per pupil and not index it for inflation? So if you answer yes in that, that means that you are gonna have that inflationary piece to it. If you answer no in that column, you don't. 10 years is what I put in for the term. That's not locking the board in, but that is the maximum amount allowed by state statute. So boards can go out for 10-year terms on operating referendum if they want. There are districts that will go out for a 5-year term. There are districts that will go out for 7-year terms. There's nothing that says you have to go out for 10 years, but 10 years is the maximum.
What's the most common?
I would say outside of the metro area, 10 years is the most common. There are districts that if they are in a situation where there's a rapid growth, they will maybe go out for a 4 or 5 or a 6-year term, just because as things grow and as they have to build new school buildings, it is very difficult for them to actually predict this out 10 years. And so they are typically the districts that I see going for less than 10 years. But a lot of outstate school districts are going for a 10-year term. Okay. So then we get to net position. And I do have a spreadsheet on all of this that I will share with all of you, but you can go and look at how the net positions are calculated. But you can see where we're at. And I just want to jump down to option 7 and 8. That's the one that to me really, if the board's going to make this decision, I think those are the 2 options that you have to consider. If you go for the $531, if you revoke your existing authority and you index it for inflation for 10 years, the net position, again, assuming enrollment stays level, staffing stays identical, you would end up in a general fund net position of plus $20,639. If you go for the $531, but you don't revoke your existing authority, again, you index it for inflation for 10 years, you would end up at that $68,044 is what your net position would be. Anything except those 2 options, you can see as you get to year 10, you are going to be running deficits. Now, that's pretty common as well. There are districts that will go out for operating referendums, and by the time they hit year 9 and 10, they are running deficits, and they're ready to go ask their voters for a different operating referendum amount. I believe what would be the safest decision fiscally would be option 7 or 8, the 531, that you are going to index it for inflation. What you choose to do with the existing authority, either way can work. Bruce?
I would lean to option 8, myself, I think that's a very good option. The other part of it is indexing for inflation is the only thing to protect us. And to put out ask for anything, knowing we're gonna be $500,000 short at the end, that doesn't tell me that we have done anything to try and solidify our financial statement. Nobody can predict what's gonna happen in 10 years, but if we know today, this looks like it, doesn't make sense to me. So I would lean heavily to option 8.
And I'm with that, it needs to be 7 or 8. My question and concern with moving to 8 is the simplification of the ballot. That's the only thing. So it's not that much dollars in difference, but we're still running in a positive. And I was thinking, we have to think through, is it gonna complicate the ballot or not for that little bit amount of increase? Is it better off just saying, let's simplify the ballot? It's not that much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
But
Like,
either way, I thought if we just let it run out, we don't complicate.
That's the, yeah,
that's option 7.
Yeah, in fact, in Ellers, option 8
is the least complicated.
is the least complicated.
Oh, that is the least.
That's the
Oh,
one
okay,
that
I was mixed up.
Yeah.
Then I'm with-
Option
Very
8 is
straightforward.
the least complicated. Option 8 is the one Ellers was talking about, that if you really want to just simplify this ballot question, option 8 is what they.
And I agree. I was thinking it was the opposite, but yes, the least complicated is,
So, what I'm planning for the June business meeting is Ellers will be back. And they will also have the resolution for the board to call for an election for an operating referendum. They will have both resolutions available, the 500 and 531. Board has no authority tonight to conduct any business, so you're not making any decision. But we will have both of these ready at the June business meeting, okay? Let's go just one step further then, and let's talk about total tax impact as well, because I think that's another piece that people are always interested in. And I just need to find where I'm at. Okay. So I've tried to provide a snapshot of what I realistically see where everything is at when you talk about an operating referendum, when you talk about a capital project or a tech levy, a lot of times it's called here. In a lot of districts it's called. So I tried to put all of these in one space so that we could look at them and say, okay, if we did the operating referendum, if we did the technology question at the same time, and if we did some bonding tool for the indoor air quality project. Now, none of this says we have to do all 3 of those things, but I just want to give the board a snapshot of what is kind of the all-in tax impact of all of those. So I went down and I highlighted the $200,000 residential homestead, as that's, I think, getting closer to where property values are moving. So you can look at, on that spreadsheet, the $531 per pupil. If the board continued with the 39, just let the $39 sunset, that would still be on for one more year. It'd be $190 for the 531 plus 14 for the $39. And then you would look at the tech levy, which would be an additional $68. And then if there was a bonding tool that was used for the indoor air quality, that would be $3. Those are all annual numbers, total for the year. So you'd be looking at, for a residential homestead, as an example, a $200,000 property in 2021, their tax would have been $55. In 2022, their tax would be $220 if all 3 of those were implemented, for a difference of $165 annually. Comes out to about $14 or so per month, I think, is how that works out. You get, again, the green example on this spreadsheet is a commercial property. I don't have a good example or what the average, the commercial properties really vary widely in ranges, so it's more difficult to come up with what the average commercial property is. I used a $500,000 commercial property because that's the charts that Ellers provides. Those are the 3 values that are in all 3 of their charts. And so you can see what that impact is as well, which would be a total annual impact of $516 annually. So again, this is just a snapshot, but I think this is kind of one of the questions that board members will potentially get and what people will be interested in. Obviously, once the board would move forward with a resolution for an operating referendum, then we would get going on developing the materials to get to the public, to educate the public about what the question's gonna be and all that. And then we're gonna get out and start talking with groups of people, very similar to what we did with the facility project. So. Questions on either?
With operating levy, we basically have one question, which if we do option 8, would keep it relatively simple.
Yep.
We have the tech levy and we're back to that explanation again.
Yep.
We're also into the clause that says that if the operating levy doesn't pass, this one doesn't pass.
Yep.
Do you get to where you confuse somebody in the vote? And keep in mind, I have always been a priority for operating levy.
Yep.
The others, yes, not that they're not important, but you can't run this school, the base part of the school without an operating levy. And I wonder about tangling that up. And my curiosity would be to read what a sample ballot might look like.
So,
Following me?
yeah, and so I was thinking along those exact same lines, Bruce, initially. And my thought is, why do we want to muddy the waters and have this operating question along with this tech levy? I just want to have one question. The problem with that is the tech levy spreads that's a tax rate across net tax capacity. So that is spread across all property classifications in the district, whereas operating referendum, there are several property classifications that are exempt from those. And so you have a smaller tax base that is picking up that operating referendum. So my initial questions to Ellers was, let's get out of the business of having an operating and a tech levy. And let's just figure out what we need with both those combined. And let's just ask that as an operating question. The tax impact from that is dramatically greater. And so to me, yes, I agree. The operating referendum is priority 1, but please don't forget the tech levy brings in about $300,000 annually.
Yeah, but it's bringing in 265 or 296 that we're revoking, and our proposal is for 365. Am I reading that right?
Yep.
Okay, so it's not like we're gonna be starving to death if we don't deal with that at this point.
No, because you do have, I believe it's 2 years left on the tech levy,
Correct.
correct?
But the operating levy, it's just, maybe it's a personal thing,
Right.
but as far as I'm concerned, I look at all the rest of it, I'm not uncomfortable putting things to the side, because without that, nothing else is gonna take place very comfortably.
And then would the plan be that the board would come back in 2 years and ask for the tech levy renewal? Because that's when it's gonna come due, and you're gonna be back on the ballot, and then you are gonna have $300,000 on the table, that if it doesn't pass, there's gonna be a reduction process to eliminate 300.
Or maybe we do it a year ahead of time, just like we did with this one. It's just that, I know I equate it to salaries of the instructors. We need to make sure that we have our base system in place. Nothing else anywhere exists without that. And I'm just not sure. Maybe it reads that if it's a 2-question, that would concern me. If it all could be combined in 1 question, which I'm sure it can't, then I probably wouldn't be too much concerned about it. But what we're trying to get away with option 8, we're reinventing, trying to explain to people, okay, we're gonna drop a levy for 296, we're gonna add another one for 365, along with a whole bunch of explanation about it. Well, for some people, that puts a shadow over their vision almost immediately, because it gets complicated.
I don't know, it's certainly something to think about with it also, as we've discussed, kind of, you're constantly going back to the public asking for money every year. We're gonna put another vote for another levy, next year. And every year going back asking for more, and not everybody sees not everybody's gonna remember 12 months ago, I just voted for operating and now I'm voting for attack. They're gonna think, well, I just voted for you to get more money last year, now you're asking for more. And that's all they're thinking. They're not thinking about those buckets of where that money's going. So that also becomes a concern. Whereas we do have 2 questions on one ballot, that at least allows us to explain why we have 2 questions on one ballot this year. We're getting the money here for the operating, we're getting the money here for tech, and we need to renew both of these 2. And that would be the advantage of getting it both on one ballot, is being able to explain them both right now instead of them putting the blinders on next year, asking, well, I just approved you last year for money. 2 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, I just voted for this big building, now you ask for money, now you're gonna ask for, when are you gonna stop asking for money? And it's-
Never.
As much concern of mine as communication is.
Right.
Yeah, and that's, I think
If we take any vote that we have, look at the percentage of the area that the press serves compared to what it used to be. 20 years ago, I'm guessing 85% of the entire public had the Paynesville Press or something where that was a good communicator. So us, we're involved and we're seeing the stuff at the school. So I'm looking at all of this. We're kind of up to date on everything. There are lots of people who are going to come in and vote for these things. They have not seen any of this. And they may not reach out. They're going to hear about a vote at the school if they're listening to the coffee shop. Stuff that sometimes can happen. We don't know what the response is going to be, whether it's favorable or not. But I think the simpler you keep it. So if they're uninformed, they have something fairly quick to read, singular, that they can vote informed rather than something that could complicate it.
But if we go the route of, or if it has to go the route of if the operating referendum doesn't pass neither the tech levy, we have the opportunity next year to continue to educate and put those ballots both in those questions on the ballot next year. If the operating referendum passes this year, but they say no to the tech levy, we still have the ability to educate, put that back on the ballot next year, the tech levy. I think it just gives us that window of security and safety to ensure that we get these passed, because we do want that operating referendum passed. I think that's question number 1 first and foremost. I think that's where where all of our hearts have to be. But I think having one big communication piece right now with both questions is almost a better route. Again, with that safety net of thinking that if question 2 doesn't pass the tech levy, we still have 2 years to work towards passing that operating referendum we need to pass.
So a lot of second questions can re-answer the first question. So if they don't agree with the second question and don't read the data, do they just check no and we're done, right? I just don't like the complication. I think that in fairness to most of the information is 25% of your people are probably not going to, voters are probably not going to have a whole lot of data when they buy in. And keeping it simple just makes sense to me.
Do you recall, did we see the data on 2 questions? I think, was it Ellers that provided the data on like the likelihood of 2 questions or not? We could look at that. And I guess I agree with you. I think it needs to be simple. But then the question is it actually more simple to sell it at once or in separate years? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think in one way, we do the advantage of things are great right now. We have great leadership. We're going through exciting times where you're going to be having open houses that do we have a more captive audience where we really could share and inform people and they're listening right now versus we do this and then next year we have to come back and our people, that's my concern is that people, you just did this, not recognizing they're 2 separate things. Or would it be more simple to say, right now, these are 2 separate things, both of them need to pass, here's why. Would that be more simple in the long run than having to now come back after kind of maybe some excitement? I hope the excitement doesn't die down. But then I think we also need to set that precedence that this is ongoing. Like this is not, we're done. We're going to continually have to ask for operating. We're going to continue to ask for these tech levies and just start that conversation. I don't know. I mean, that's the question. I mean, I think our community has shown they're supporting us right now. They're excited about what we're doing. It's hard to know. You're right. There's going to be 20% or whatever that are automatically going to vote no. But we do have a lot of captive people right now who maybe would be more willing to listen to, here's the reasons why.
I don't have any trouble.
Yeah, and I do think there'd be some potential value in getting the tech levy and operational piece aligned so that they are on the same cycle, and they are linked together.
Could that
Because,
require revoking the existing tech levy though, to put it on the same year?
yeah, but that's essentially what, if there's a second question, if the board chooses to do the operating referendum for the 531 and then chooses to do the second question for the tech levy, the second question for the tech levy would be revoking the current authority in place and then
Aligning it with
the
the,
new one. Yeah. And the thing about the tech levy is that language is simpler because that is simply a tax rate. That is not worded the same way that the operating referendum is worded. And so it is a different way that will be presented on the ballot. I think it's a little easier to understand.
was our last tech levy vote handled the same time on the same ballot as the facility?
It was.
And the facility was a
Facility
question two,
failed and
the tech levy
Pass.
passed. But right now, a tech levy would be question two,
Right.
would be question one.
In your experience, kind of based off of knowing our area and local districts, what is your, I mean, is that fair to ask what your recommendation? You don't have to,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think,
I see the value in having them connected and on the same schedule. I do understand that, yes, 2 questions is always twice as many as one. And I get that. I also, it must be California, man. And so I get that that adds complexity to it. But I see the 2 of them working in unison for the infrastructure and those bare bones of what we need to operate. I don't see the operating referendum on its own, standing alone, meeting those needs. I see the operating referendum partnering with the tech levy. Those 2 together really collectively are what that is. Unfortunately, it's 2 different tools, but the reason it's 2 different tools is because that's the way we can accomplish the goal with the lowest tax impact for our community. If we just wanted to simplify it and just said, okay, let's not play this game of having a tech levy and operating referendum, let's just have an operating referendum and go for $890 per pupil, that tax impact is, I mean, you're gonna see some dramatic increases.
And that's exactly the explanation that needs to be out there.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I mean, this way to do it, to figure out what it is we really have for those tech expenses that meet a tech levy and present those, and then explain the tech levy and how that works as a vehicle to raise revenue. And then also how the operating referendum operates. Those 2 combined is how you can accomplish getting the revenue that the district will need at the lowest possible tax impact. It's the reality.
But the tax impact is the reality, whether it's 1 question or 2. Because you're gonna come back, when you do the tech levy, the reality of that tax impact is the same.
You're
So
absolutely,
it comes down to whether you have a ballot that could be looked at as being somewhat complicated. With us, I see all the time where we'll say, yeah, we have this media going at the school, everybody knows about it. And no, that's not true. Whoever's looking at it knows about it. We all know about it because we're there. Anybody that's got kids in school knows about it. But that's not who our voter is. Our voter is not in that shell. And so sometimes when I look at the communicator, then concerns me when I look at readership percentages, they're not maybe what they used to be. Okay, that could be part of it. I'm a total fan if we want to send a mailing out to everybody. I happen to like that. I know it costs money, but we were told in the last survey that the public liked to get it individually in the mail. Basically, I can't remember how they phrased it.
And I think the
I
district
think that's
should
an
absolutely be sending a mailing out to every household in the district. And it should have explicit information, exactly what is the question, what is being voted on, and the frequently asked questions, and absolutely, I see a similar document to what was used with the facility project, probably a little more condensed and a little more simplified, but absolutely, I think that needs to be a component of the education.
in my mind, either way it goes, but I'm just not a big fan of the second question. Over the years, that has always been a big concern. And if we look at our system, you're going back to the public, but you're telling them really what it's all about. You're not combining two things together. We haven't hid anything. We're just telling them more currently with where we're at. I think it's okay to tell the public whatever we want. There's lots of things in life. It's not like things that we buy, we're adding something else into it because it's just convenient. We sometimes will hold off on that if it's not necessary, but I think it's extremely necessary for the main concentration to be on operating levy. That I can't get myself out of that rut. I just think that's more important.
Yeah, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. It's just a matter of that second question. Does adding the second question really complicate it this year more than it'll complicate it next year? And which way do we see the public see it as more complicated? Which one do we see them carrying a more negative light on? But I think communication wise, it is the key goal is the operating referendum. The majority of that communication. And as Maggie said, there's gonna be a lot of excitement this fall. We're gonna open up this pack and we're gonna have a lot of public in here, thumbs up, ready to support us, and it would be great to take advantage of that excitement and that energy from August, September, October. September school start in October, both right there in November, and to take advantage of that opportunity of public excitement and information that we can put out there at that point in time through that excitement to build on what are our next steps? What are we doing next? And technology is going to be one of those things, as much as operating that we have to get through. Technology is that next thing of that's what we're doing next, and I think that it has that availability, that capability, and does excitement die off a year from now? Everybody loves a hot tub when they first get it, but a year later, you're really using the thing, or is it still sitting there empty? So.
Well,
Those guys will, I was gonna say,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, where's everyone else?
Why does that question-
What do we need?
On the ballot, will it stay capital project levy, or can we put can we change that, or is that by legal?
That's a good question for Ellers. I think it does have to say capital project levy, but I do think we can put technology in.
I just think that's one
Reference
of the
here.
selling points. We gotta make sure people
Technology should
understand.
be in
what-
it. Yeah.
This is what we used it for before, and this is
Right.
what we tend to
Yeah.
use it for again. But I am concerned about the operating referendum, going back, that we do have a lot of other explaining to do. Because people are still gonna see, and I don't have the figures before me now, but that it was 700 and some last time, and now it's decreasing, but it's not really decreasing. A lot of explaining's got to be done either way.
Right.
So just be mindful of that as well, that it's not gonna be something we can just throw out there and expect people to.
Right.
It's going to take just as much work as we put in for the facility, we're going to put in for the operating. And I'll leave it at that operating. We're going to put that in that same amount of work so everybody understands it, but it's going to be a lot of communication. It's just, again, the tech and the thing is where we have to discuss, is it going to be more complicated this year or next? So. Cheryl.
Other thoughts?
Yeah.
I just see putting the two together. I'm sorry, but it's gonna take a lot of explaining no matter what we do. Just have to work harder. Make sure people understand.
And there is value in having them on the same cycle.
Yeah, I'm just thinking too that coming back again in a year or 2 years, saying, well, we need more. Not everybody understands that we can't use this, we have to have this, this one's going away, we need it back again. They're gonna say, well, we just gave you that much. why do you need more again? And not everybody understands. Like, I didn't understand when I first came on the board. It's more complicated than just dollars.
And ideally, whatever the decision, we have marketing, a multi-channel approach, but then that open house time is actually a great time where there's audience too, like physically there, where we can have information ready, even maybe potentially part of the programming. There's a lot we can do to inform the, people that are there, if they understand and know, and their friends ask them, like, it's helpful to have more people understand.
Well, it's gonna be hard, I see this as being harder than a physical facility.
Right.
Because people could get excited about a
Yeah.
facility, this,
Right.
oh, this is just money for ongoing expenses. But what we always were told with the facility is the one group, well, for any vote, is the one group that doesn't vote are the parents of the elementary kids. So we put this all on the principal and make sure she makes sure they. And if you can really hit them up with those open houses and
Right.
whatever, if you can get all of those parents of preschoolers and elementary kids, let alone the high school kids to vote, it'll pass.
Right. Isn't the school district the second biggest employer in our city? If every teacher, staff, administrator voted, and if they have a spouse, I mean, you start doing, it is, we have to get people on board and getting them vote. That's what I think we did well last time.
Teachers need to get out there because they're on the line too.
Right, this is their,
Yeah.
this is their.
So,
I guess.
Kellers will be back at June 22nd meeting. And they will have the resolutions and everything for the board, and ultimately the board should make a decision at that time. I will double check with them. I know that there isn't a current K-12 education budget that has been approved. Who knows? It could be approved by June 22nd. It might not be approved by June 22nd. So I will talk with Ellers about that, but do plan on them being at the June business meeting, and I think the board should determine a direction at that time.
Could we look at that data again, at the 2 questions, so we could see like,
Yep.
what is the results of the 2 question, just so that we are looking at that information again, historical data. I didn't feel like it was a huge disparity, but I'm not remembering.
I will get them. Any other questions then with operating referendum? All right.
On to C, 21-22 budget.
All right, so preliminary budget is attached to the agenda. This is a worst case scenario budget. I do actually think, well, I know that this budget will improve from where it's at right now. The big question is going to be, what will ultimately enrollment be in the fall? That is going to be a big driver with this. This budget is based on having 910 students enrolled. And right now at the end of the school year, we were just over 900 enrolled. So obviously we will need a few students to return to us that weren't with us this year. But I think there's also the possibility that we could have more than just a few students return to us. So that will be obviously a big driver. The other piece that is connected to the budget is our ADSYS grant, which is Alternative Delivery System, Student System of Support something. I'm forgetting the acronym. The ADSYS grant was approved. Our grant value is about $520,000. It is a matching grant. So of that $520,000, we will be responsible for about 45% of those funds, and state aid will kick in to the tune of about 55%. So I think that grant itself will net us an additional $238,000 in state revenue. That's where that will be. That is not factored into this budget at all. So that is a piece that is out there. That approval letter, I think, arrived last Thursday, maybe Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
That's Thursday.
It's late last week is
We
when
were waiting and waiting and waiting. It was supposed to come the end of April.
we were nervously waiting is the reality. But yes, so that is a critical component.
I have a
Yeah, go ahead.
Still question going back to the enrollment numbers. So I'm just curious, based off of knowing so many students, the 30-some that enrolled in a different school, do we have an outreach plan, or are we getting a sense of like
Yeah,
that
so
people are coming back?
not getting a huge sense.
Okay.
As far as where people are at. We are going to be launching what we're calling Bulldog Online. So we will have a full, grades 3 through 12 would have an option to attend fully online, but remain a student of Paynesville area schools. They will be taking classes. We will partner with Eduseer, and they will be Eduseer. They will be taking classes that are offered through Eduseer. They're taught by licensed Minnesota teachers. But they would be able to stay enrolled with us. They would have access to all of our activities, all of our extracurriculars. All of those things would be available to them. We would enroll them just like every other student at Paynesville. They would come and get their student issued Chromebook, just like every other student would. They would truly be a Paynesville student. It's just they would be attending fully online. And we would be partnering with Eduseer in order to do that. So a letter went out to all homeschool families, along with all families that ended the year in a remote learning environment. And then anybody who enrolled in a different provider that was an online provider that enrolled somewhere else. The next step is with that letter going out, then the next step is we're going to actually be contacting them and trying to just have a conversation to make sure that they understand that this is an option and what it can offer, and maybe even what it is and what it isn't, is just to make sure that we're taking questions.
Is that the program that we needed to partner with another district, or is this something that we can do independently?
Well, this is our independent version.
Okay,
I personally believe that we have the capacity, if we partner regionally, that we could actually offer our own online classes with our instructors teaching those classes. Clearly, if an instructor at Paynesville were to teach an online class, that would need to be part of their load. I mean, you can't just ask them to teach all their classes and, oh, by the way, you're going to teach an online class too. So, I mean, it would just be part of their assignment. But I realistically think if we develop some regional partners, I think we can do something like that with our own instructors. And in my opinion, that would be the ideal way to deliver a full online program. That's not where we're at right now. I think there's more conversations going on about that, and I do think that there can be movement in that direction. But this is where we're at right now, without having the partnerships in place to pull that.
it's exciting.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I'll be really curious to see what kind of interest we get.
Would those students be able to participate, for example, like band, and come
Yeah.
physically into school, or would it be kind of the same, like all remote, but then you can come in for evening activities, or?
Yeah, so all extracurriculars they would have access to, so they can take music and I can't remember if it was instrumental and vocal.
Yes.
They have access to
Through a different,
through
so
online.
come into Paynesville and participate in the Paynesville band type thing.
They wouldn't need to, but then, they could potentially participate in the musical. I mean,
Okay, yep.
there are a host of
Okay.
fine art activities that those activities would be wide open to them, like any other.
They're technically a student here.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what we want. We want them to love this and to still feel a part
They
of
can
it.
play sports, they can.
Right.
yes.
What do you think of students with immune compromises, or sick for extended period of time? They can still be enrolled in Paynesville,
Yes,
100%,
yes.
and keep up. Like
I would
that.
assume there's issues, sorry to interrupt, but I assume there's issues with transfer, like it's gotta be a semester to semester thing, or does it start the year and you're stuck here until, or how does?
So we are gonna, we are going to limit transitions to the end of grading periods.
Okay.
And so, right now, it's gonna be, if you're gonna opt in, we're gonna try to have you opt in for a full quarter. At the end of the quarter, you could make a decision to change. Now, I can't predict every series of events and circumstances. I can guarantee that we can say that that's what we're gonna wanna do, and that will be what we try to have happen. But there could be some circumstances where a student may need to make a transition, and obviously, we're gonna work with the family and do what we can with that.
How does it work with open enrollment and online education?
Students can open enroll. I mean, once they open enroll, they're our student. We can offer this to our students. We aren't an approved online provider, so we can't offer it to anybody in the state. But students could certainly open enroll to Paynesville and, potentially do something like this. I mean, I'm not gonna say that we're gonna be in the market to have kids open enroll from Duluth to Paynesville.
It'd be more of a thought if a student starts in our district and their family moves to St. Cloud, and over Christmas break and be like, well, I want to finish my school year with Paynesville. For whatever reason, they're a high school student, they can drive, they can come to the activities, but they can't come to school every day. So that would be an available option at that point in time.
And then funding, how does that work? We still get the same state aid, we pay
Yep.
the,
Yeah, and there's obviously a fee that goes to EduSeer, but yes, we would get all state aid, we would, they're just like every other enrolled student that we have at Paynesville.
So they'd be able to be in all our sports?
Yep.
And they would band and choir if they wanted to? Come and participate, or will they be restricted from the regular hours of the day?
Any extracurricular activity they would have access to. If they're taking band or choir, they would be taking that through the online partnership with EduSeer. They offer vocal and instrumental music in an online platform. So they would continue to take that in that online piece. If they want to participate in the musical, yes, they'd be able to figure something like that.
Or if pep band was practicing after school, they would come in and be part of the pep band within those practices. But if it was a school class during the school day, it would be limited to their EduSeer.
Field trips, that kind of stuff, it'd be the same thing.
Well, again, now
They're not really with a class.
Yep, and remember,
How do you
if they're
person in to go to Minneapolis on a field trip or something?
Yep, and they probably aren't. I mean, let's just say, for instance, like we have Mr. Whaler's aviation class, that those kids went to the Wilmer Regional Airport for a field trip to go up in a plane. Well, a student that's in this Bulldog Online wouldn't be enrolled in Mr. Whaler's class. So they wouldn't be coming in,
So it's not a field trip based on the class?
right, they wouldn't be coming in to participate in that because they aren't actually enrolled in that.
Gotcha.
One other thing I just wanted to reference as far as the budget, we have a variety of building projects that are going on this summer and into the fall. I did throw those into the drive folder. The big thing that I just want the board to understand is our largest section of roof is up next. And we are actually not doing that segment of roof this summer. That will be on the schedule with LTFM dollars for next summer. So there isn't a segment of roof that is being worked on this summer, but it will pick up and get to that next summer. So the complete list is in Drive and you can take a look at it. But I mean, most of these are pretty straightforward projects, so. Any other questions for me on the budget?
It's basically gonna be like this, when we have to approve it at the next meeting, right?
Yeah, so
We
this,
have to have it in for the state?
yep, so this is just a snapshot so the board can see where things are at. You will probably see a few changes from where this one is to what you see on June 22nd. But by state statute, you need a preliminary budget approved before June 30th. And so you will be asked at the June 22nd board meeting to approve the preliminary budget for next year.
Other questions? We'll move on to D, facility project open house. Matt,
So I just wanted to, make sure the board is aware of this. The open house is going to start the planning process. The district is going to work closely with the Paynesville Area Community Foundation on doing an open house. Right now, in some conversations with the foundation, we're tentatively eyeing Thursday, August 12th as the date for the open house grand opening event. The significance of that date is obviously the fall activities start on Monday, the 16th, I believe is the Monday in August. We would like to do this before all those activities and everything start, just because it's gonna get busy down there and stuff. Technically, by contract right now, the project isn't gonna be turned over to us till August 13th. We did just have construction meeting today, and BCI feels like they're in a really good position. They don't see any problem with us going ahead and planning this August 12th event. And they will work to make sure we have the appropriate occupancy permits and all of that stuff to be able to get that done. Realistically, I wouldn't be surprised if people notice that BCI is wrapped up and out of here by probably a couple weeks after 4th of July. They're for the most part gonna be gone. There might be some punch list items and stuff, but it'll pretty much be done. So I guess the question, I just wanted the board to just have some discussion. There's gonna be a work group that meets tomorrow night that's gonna start talking a little bit about this August 12th event. And so as far as board input, if there are thoughts or specifics or what the board is looking for out of that event, that's really what this is for. So if you have compelling feelings or ideas, you can share them now or email them to me, but we're going to get started on planning that.
Definitely planning tours and explanations of the areas and how they're to be used.
What we've been talking from the foundation side is part of the event will be similar to when we had the open house at the Innovation Center. So to invite people in, there will be probably a pre-event of people who helped, who gave philanthropically to the project. And it'll be open to everybody, but maybe more of a private event like that. And then having a bigger event where there's, an informal presentation. But we really want to generate excitement about, how this came to and where we're at and where we're going in the future. So similar feel. We talked too about potentially doing cutting a ribbon, a ceremonial type thing. But yeah, tomorrow night, who's on the CTE? You'll be there.
Obviously, I have been in contact with the West Central Tribune and with St. Cloud Times and WJON about this project, so I will reach out to those folks as well. And I think it would be good to get this to be a broader event. Certainly can reach out to Representative Gamuth and Senator Howe to see if they want to come in and be part of that as well.
I might be working that night. Sorry.
That is a possibility.
Yeah. And we all laugh. So if there are thoughts or if there are specifics that board members are looking for out of that open house, please email, communicate those and let me know, or you can always reach out to Miranda too, but let us know and we'll kind of work on getting a plan together. And then I would suspect the July board meeting, there would be an update for the board, kind of exactly what's happening with that event and what it's gonna
how it's gonna kind of unfold.
I think in my end, I say whatever I can do to help along with that process. You know, we're just as appreciative of the community, you know, supporting us through this process that, I'll be here to help, and available to thank every community member that comes in to do their, that, you know, and show our glow and our gleam for this facility, and share that with them. So whatever I can do to help, whatever we can do to help them.
Anything you want us here for, just
No,
anything we're needed for, just let us know. If it's just shaking hands or holding the door.
Well, you're probably right. But we need something they can hand out to them so they can take something home with them and share with other people that don't make it here. I'm sure the press will do
Yeah.
a big 2-page spread.
And
We're love to be part of it in some way.
Sure.
the school will go through their channels of inviting, and it'll be kind of a co-sponsored event with the foundation of the district. And then the foundation will also reach out to businesses, so we want to extend, we've talked about the GSDC in St. Cloud, what businesses in Wilmer, like all over, to bring them in here to, but part of it is like, we want to talk about our partnerships with internships and what we're doing. And so there's all these prongs that it's not just like, here's what's happening, but it's really to look at who else wants to partner with us, invest, all those things. So there's just going to be a lot happening from the invitation side too, and who's going to be personally contacted, and hopefully, and if you are on social media, when those things come out, share, encourage people to attend.
All right, E, request for information roundtable. At this point in the meetings, anybody have anything particular we want to?
Just confirming next week now.
I was gonna say, you know, looking at the calendar, it wouldn't
Nothing
be.
on Monday? Is that right?
Um,
Tuesday, we're having a special school board meeting, is that right?
Tuesday, the 15th, special meeting at 6 p.m.
Right.
And then the 16th and the 18th, we're starting at 2 p.m. with interviews. So I would assume we all want to make sure we're punctual for that. The interviews are starting.
At 6 on Tuesday the 15th. Is that what you just said?
At 6 p.m. is a special meeting. We'll be presented the list of candidates.
That's all we'll be dealing with that night, right?
Correct.
You can't do anything else.
Correct.
There's no actions. It's just
Right.
presented. Just another open discussion on that. Okay. And then the 16th, 18th at 2 p.m. So those would be some longer days, but I think well spent. You'll be able to look over these candidates. So the only other thing I thought about as we started this meeting is, we'll again want to have some discussion on our 7th board member and what we want to do. I don't know if we're best off kind of having that conversation here of like how do we want to, does anybody have any opinions, I guess, how you'd like to proceed with looking towards that 7th board member?
I think wait till November.
Wait,
Wait till November.
I think that's a good idea.
Have an election. I happen to like that idea, and then the public decides who that person is.
It's
This is
really hard to put
legitimate.
someone new into this mix
Yep.
right now.
But then I would say at next board, at the business meeting, we should probably make something more official that we're gonna begin this process to get a member on the ballot in November.
Yep.
So
That makes sense.
make sure that's on the
School board
agenda.
association, didn't they have some recommendations or?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not, there isn't an actual very black and white process.
Okay.
There, the process is very gray, and in my conversations with the school board association, they have told me that, yes, there's probably as many different ways as boards go about this as there are school boards in the state of Minnesota.
Didn't know if by law we had to, since we're.
The thing that they say by law is that at the next regular election, there has to be a special election. That is what is laid out and is very explicit in law. So whatever the board wants to do, whether it's appoint or have people apply and interview, or however the board would determine what the process is, whatever ends up happening, that person is only going to be serving until
1 year.
the board canvasses the election results in November of 2021,
Because the day after you canvass and certify those results, who's ever elected takes their seat. They do not wait until January. Then they will fill the remainder of that seat, which would be 1
For a
year.
year.
Yeah.
So even if we were to appoint somebody now, they would only be
Right.
able to go until we canvass election in November. So, and then that person we appoint could run in November and
Right.
we maintain that seat, but
But anybody can run in November.
Yeah, so what's gonna end up happening in July, you will approve the resolution to set your window for affidavit of candidacy.
Because that's in August.
And all that, yep, that'll
Right,
open up in August. But it'll be the same process, just like when we are hosting board elections on a regular cycle. It'll be that exact same process. You'll approve that resolution. We'll put the notice in the newspaper. The district office will have the applications and everything, and people will come in and pay their $2 or $1 or whatever it is to run. And then, it'll be the exact same process, just it'll be a special election because we typically wouldn't have an election on the odd year.
then individually, we encourage any community members that we know that we think would be interested in running for that 1 year. I think it's a very, valid point for us to make some of that outreach. And
Recruiting.
anybody watch the meetings, if you're interested in running for board in November, we would be happy to accept anybody interested, so.
Is there anything that you need from the board prior to transition or anything that we need to be aware of that we could be helpful with?
No, I would say by June 22nd, I will have a document that will just be a series of things that are going on that I will give to all of you, that I will share with who's ever going to be serving in the role next. But I would ask you to all look it over, read it over, and if there's something that you feel is missing out of that, I would like your feedback, let me know, and I can certainly add, but
Now, Matt, you've mentioned you'd be willing to assist past July 1st. Would there be any documentation, or anything that you'd want to bring to us if we were to entertain that? So we're gonna hire somebody. If they're gonna give their district a reasonable notice, it's not like July 1st, they're gonna walk in the door ready to run. And we're gonna have some time period in between there. Is there anything that you would need to present to us or be able to present to us if we were to choose to kind of carry you for another week or whatever your availability is in July?
I think what you guys need to take care of is your business on the 16th and the 18th. And then I think we can have some conversation about what the board is feeling like that transition is gonna look like. I am open to help in whatever manner that I can. But I think it'll be best, and I think you'll have a good handle after the 16th and 18th and meet these.
It's not the first time these people have been through something like
Yes,
this.
you will have a much better picture of where you think things are going. And so then, that week of the 21st, we can figure that out.
And also if there's things for the board, that we could have done different onboarding you, you know what I mean? Give us feedback too, so that we're setting up. If you're like, gosh, I wish I would have had this first, or I would have, feel free to share that with us, so that we don't, just so we know.
Yep. Perfect. Anything else?
Nope.
What's the score of the
Adjourned.
baseball game?